Hey, what's up, party people? Welcome to I was going to say action-packed, but just kind of a kickback, shoot the shit episode of SJU. I'm Spencer J. Gilbert. I'm here with Eric and Kim. And look, it's not that we don't have anything to talk about. It's just that, we have a few stories of semi-equal importance, and then Kim's going to talk to us about what animals she thinks she could take in a fight. So stick around for that. But yeah, why don't you pour yourself a drink and kick back and let's sniff the goblet of wine that was Suicide Squad, or the Suicide Squad, excuse me, and see what we can maybe read from the tea leaves after it's, I wouldn't say it's came and went, but it debuted in theaters and at home on HBO Max, and it vastly underperformed, and that got us thinking. What's DC gonna do? Are they gonna overreact, underreact, correctly react in the wake of something like this? It did not do very well at the box office. Domestic 26.5 million, international 45.7. That's a total of $72 million to this point. That's got to be below what they were expecting, right? Those are rookie numbers. You got to get those numbers up, DC.
Yeah.
Are you guys surprised by this, or do you think that there's so many confounding external factors that it's not even the movie's fault? Where do you fall on this?
I mean, yeah, I'm not surprised, and we're in a unprecedented time still. Who can predict what will happen when it comes to who's going to the movie theatre? I just don't think you can predict or legislate for anything in these times. And if they take anything from this in a negative way, as in it hasn't performed well enough, I think they'd be making a mistake. I think it's been well enough received, amongst critics and fans, judging by what people are saying, for them to, press ahead with whatever plans they have. I don't think it's a cause for concern.
I think there's so many freaking factors, and we'll never know the clean version of how this would have gone because A, global pandemic, which is the big one, and then B, HBO Max simultaneous release. But then you do have all the other factors, like this was a follow-up to a movie that people did not like. It had a confusing title that made it see, is this a new, if you're, for people who don't follow this stuff all the time, what did they think this was? Look, I freaking love this movie. I've seen it 4 times. I'm going to watch it again. And, at the end of the day, a good movie is a good movie. And I just went to, a couple months ago, I went to a screening of Scott Pilgrim, got a national re-release. Scott Pilgrim, a famous bomb 11 years ago that people freaking love. So it doesn't really, it doesn't affect the movie and its longevity, I don't think. But I will say, yeah, there's so many factors about this. One thing that did stand out to me about the Suicide Squad, as much as I loved it and as much as I'm glad they made it exactly the way they made it, is did it need to cost $185 million? Like, do you make a movie about the purposely non-marquee characters? I was talking to a friend of mine, he loved it too, and he said, what if they did this movie without Starro? Would it have been a great movie that maybe didn't cost as much? And there's a lot of questions you have about that, but the asterisks you have to put on any performance this year are so massive that it's hard to make a massive conclusion from this, because there's caveat, because it's 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but go ahead, Kim.
These numbers don't take into account, obviously, the money they would have made off the back of people subscribing to HBO Max.
Yeah, true.
Perhaps on the basis of this movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. You have to put an asterisk up there, but I'm kind of leaning more towards Eric's additional non-pandemic explanations, because this wasn't the only big superhero film that's come out in the last few months. You had Black Widow, which smoked it. It's still underperformed by Marvel movie standards, but beat the Suicide Squad. And it got beat by something like Space Jam 2 in theaters, something that was also on HBO Max. And, LeBron James is as big or roughly the same... what's that thing, that your Q score as the Suicide Squad, I'd imagine at this point. So I think that this is uniquely hampered by this 2016 stank that's on the name of the Suicide Squad, that people like us know, oh, there's a new director, oh, they're bringing some characters back but not all, and other people just said, oh, they did a Suicide Squad movie again? I hated that. I'm not going to go out and see it. Not everyone is as well informed as we are, right? That's where I'm leaning.
Yeah. I always go to I can't remember if I told the story in SJU or not, but I had a cable guy, or I've had a lot of maintenance people at my house lately, but someone was there and he mentioned, because I have a lot of superhero figures up, about how the confusion of trying to watching the Snyder cut and then being like, wait, I already saw this. Like not under, it's like it's easy for us to be like, we know exactly what this is. We know exactly what the things are behind the scenes. But I think for a lot of casual people who are like, oh, this is a new movie, but what is it? And they don't know director changes, hype about this and that. So yeah, I think they've had a lot of even going back to Birds of Prey, another movie I loved, that they then try to change the title of halfway through the release, of sometimes just the way they position their movies has been a little awkward.
People don't know shit about anything, Eric.
Right.
That's something we're slowly discovering. And someone in the chat, Simon Smith, had a good point. He doesn't think it underperformed. I think the kid-suitable movies it's being compared against overperformed. And the R rating has to factor into there in theaters, because, Birds of Prey, likewise, had an R rating. Did it need it? I don't think so. But that could be something else that kind of hamstrung it at the box office.
Yeah, I imagine on the family movie front, something like Space Jam 2, families have been cooped up for so long without something like this to do. I imagine they rushed out at the opportunity to take the kids to the theater for a couple of hours.
Yeah, totally.
And I will say on the pandemic, again, it's like the asterisk factor. It's like, because I totally agree. It's like, this, when you compare it to Black Widow, this is way. And of course, if you compare it to Suicide Squad 2016, which made like 130 million opening weekend, but obviously in a very different non-pandemic world.
It had a great trailer.
It did have a great trailer.
Several great trailers. And then the whole movie was that trailer for 2 hours long.
But then it's like, you even have to factor in, it's like, this movie opened like, has the news got a lot scarier, like even just week by week compared to like a month before. So it's such a tricky thing. I don't think, like, I saw some people that were like, that were going to a lot of like hyperbole about like heads will roll at Warner over this. I'm like, I don't think so, especially because it was so well received, and it's still like kind of, I think, going to be hey, Warner Media knows what it's like to have something like Shawshank Redemption bomb in box office and then go on to be like a beloved part of their slate. But yeah, there's a lot of tricky factors with this movie. I wish it had done better, but at the same time, I can understand why it didn't do as well.
Yeah, and I mean, this wasn't, I don't get the sense that this was a fully strategic long-term move by Warner Brothers when they greenlit this movie, because it was like, oh, James Gunn's in trouble. Marvel's distancing themselves from him. Yeah, get whatever you want to do, James. Pick any title, pick any story, like whatever you want. R-rated, $100 million. Yeah, fine. We want to poach you from the MCU, and this is what you get. Just bad timing. Zeno R writes in the chat, Charles Roven said last week the film came in under budget. We don't know by how much, though. Well, that's always nice.
I do know, I saw them talk about how this is a very rare big Hollywood movie, because factored into a big budget these days for a movie like this are the reshoots, and they didn't do them on this movie because they were so happy with it. And that like never happens. As much as people talk about reshoots, like every big movie you love has reshoots these days, but this one didn't, because they were like, no, it works. So
very tight.
One thing I think people pointed this out in the chat too is, it had a simultaneous home release, but even compared to Black Widow, the fact that it didn't cost anything to launch on HBO Max on top of that too. And Trevor Ramsey was in the chat talking about how, he had friends who, if they were going to spend the $30 on Black Widow, they wanted to just go to the theater instead. But since they didn't have to make that commitment, we'll just stay home and watch on HBO Max. There is an engagement level that you have to have there too, that I definitely think affects this, and it affected Mortal Kombat and some of the other ones too.
Right. I think that just the Space Jam 2 of it all is the confounding factor to me, because that's released in nearly identical circumstances and outperformed it, which I would never have bet. So this kind of gets into, will DC pivot or will they stay the course? Here's what they've already got in the hopper. The Peacemaker HBO Max series. Ooh, I hope they're still feeling good about that one. That's written and directed by James Gunn, and this is like a spin-off. I guess I won't do any spoilers, but they're making a Peacemaker series. Are you stoked to watch that after seeing the film?
Yeah.
I mean, yes. That didn't sound very convincing. Sorry, but I am, because John Cena is always watchable if you can see him.
I see nothing.
I'm trying not to spoil things and go into what this covers. But one thing that James Gunn has said is that it deals with this conflict in him as how he became this violent pacifist, and I hope it touches on comic book origins. That'll be interesting. And yeah, it's also going to give some time to I understand to some of the new characters within it as well, so it doesn't just tell his story, although it is one continuous story across 8 episodes. I also, regardless of what this is perceived to have done, the Suicide Squad, James Gunn is dependably great. He's written this, he's directed 5 episodes, and he's the showrunner. So, for my money, it's going to be probably unmissable TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm psyched for it because I love Suicide Squad. So to see him, the Suicide Squad, to see him continue on in that world, and Cena and him obviously got along great and worked so well together, and Cena was so fun in this role. And I don't know. Again, I don't think it's going to be like a freaking out at HBO Max about it, even if the Suicide Squad is under reviewed, because for HBO Max, again, who we've talked about, they didn't have a Mandalorian when they launched, right? And Peacemaker won't be the Mandalorian for them, but at the same time, it'll be their first like original, completely made by them, because they took some stuff from the old DC universe over. But this will be Peacemaker, like we ground up made this happen. And content for the beast, guys, the streaming beast. So it'll get people talking, even if maybe it won't be like the most viewed, like Mandalorian level viewed, if based on the Suicide Squad's performance. But I'm personally very psyched about it, just to see him continue on in this world.
Yeah, I'm excited. He wasn't like the breakout character of the Suicide Squad for me. I have to wonder if they announced a King Shark series, if this was going to be like a way more anticipated, more exciting thing. And I get it. John Cena is like a big celebrity, the bigger celebrity in this movie. So you base it around him. But man, like I just think that they could have maybe, I don't know. They can't wait until the movie comes out and then greenlight a TV spinoff. But I guess this is why Marvel doesn't link them so closely, like HBO Max is doing, where they make the movies about certain characters and the TV series about other ones, and they're not coming out at the same exact time, like they have linked with, speaking of, the Batman that's coming out and the Gotham Police Department series that's also coming ahead. So when in doubt, do something Batman related, right? They're back to basics, back to Batman, launch another Batman, you get yourself another Joker. Or is this part of the Jokerverse, the Joaquin Jokerverse? Are we going to see 30 Seconds to Mars Joker show up again? This is like to me, Batman is like their old dependable, right? Like you can't miss with a new Batman movie.
I mean, box office wise, it's difficult to,
Yeah. And it's far enough away, March 4th, 2022, that like there's a chance that, hopefully, knock on wood, like everybody's back out and partying again, and we're not on, variant Z and our skin's melting off or whatever. So right. I think that, do we think that this is another complete standalone? Do we know at this point is this launching a new universe, or does it matter at this point that this ties into anything or not to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we know for sure yet. I mean, they've said it's part of a different continuity to the rest of the DCEU. I don't know. I suppose it depends on how successful it is as to whether it is a standalone or launches a whole new series of movies. I wonder if they could, because of the dark tone, tie it up with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker at some point. Again, I suppose it depends on how well it performs. But yeah, I think we're all gonna rush to the cinema if we can to watch it, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think my guess is they will acknowledge this movie in the Flash movie. It does sound like it's doing its own thing in its own universe, and I don't think it'll connect directly to either the DCU or the Joker movie. And it was interesting to read the other day that J.K. Simmons is going to return as Commissioner Gordon in the Batgirl movie, which we'll get to in a second, just because Jeffrey Wright is Gordon in The Batman. So they're definitely like got their conversions here and these two different things happening. But they also have this Flash movie that seems to be acknowledging the multiverse and already has two Batman in it that we know.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're gonna, even if Pattinson isn't directly in that movie, I feel like they'll do a nod to it. That's gonna be their explanation.
It's gonna be their excuse to like keep the things that work and get rid of the things that don't. Because they've already committed to kind of a 1 foot in the old DCEU and 1 foot in the new. Because here's some other things that are coming up. Black Adam, which takes place, in the Shazamiverse. The Flash, as you said, later on in 2022. There's another Aquaman movie coming.
My man.
Also, my man. And another Shazam movie. So those are all the things that they... also something called the DC League of Super Pets. What's that?
That's an animated movie with the Rock and Kevin Hart voicing Crypto the Super Dog and Ace the Bat Hound.
But he's also Black Adam. That's just confusing.
Right?
Breaks everything. How dare they? So these movies are actually happening and actually filming. So it seems like, movie studios are like the Titanic. Like, it takes a really long time for them to change course, even if they got spooked by Suicide Squad. And it seems like regardless of how that did, they're leaning back into, I don't know, phase 1 of the DCEU of Aquaman, Shazam, and the Flash, right? This isn't anything new.
I mean, it's so weird. So go, Ken.
Sorry, Aquaman and Shazam at least are proven successes.
Yeah.
So, and I would be extremely surprised if these sequels don't perform well for them. And I would be surprised if they don't continue with further installments as well.
They're in such a weird place because Aquaman, it's like Aquaman made $1 billion. Like, Aquaman was like the biggest DC movie to not feature Batman ever. It's crazy how big that movie was. So it is this strange thing, because while I think we agree it's like the DCEU, certainly the launch of it was not a success and a lot of huge mistakes, then you just had these parts of it that worked really well. And the first Wonder Woman, which was a huge success. But so it's we're gonna have these weird tendrils, and I think it's almost like we have to kind of accept that it's the anti-MCU, because the MCU is so unified and so like it all ties together, and then this is gonna be all over the place, and we've got Aquaman and Wonder Woman dating back years to Batman versus Superman. But then we have new characters, and we have multiple versions of Batman and multiple Commissioner Gordons. And I think I'm kind of embracing the wackiness of it, because it is just such a different thing.
Yeah, I mean, it mirrors the way comics are, which is like there's multiple continuities going at one time and multiple versions of Spider-Man all putting out issues and stuff like that. So I guess I'm fine with it. I'm used to it. Though you do end up having to A, vote with your dollars on which things you're actually going to follow, and B, like if you try to explain it to a friend who's completely unfamiliar with it, you're like, no, this is Spectacular Spider-Man. Over in Amazing Spider-Man, it's a different Peter Parker and a different artist, like blah 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 blah. So we'll see if the film industry can support that kind of a hot mess. And there'll be a lot more of a hot mess coming, because I'm just going to run through the list of everything they have in development. So may or may not happen. Some of them I have more confidence in than others. The Batgirl movie for HBO Max, that's going to happen. Wonder Woman 3, you have to imagine somebody's going to make it at some point. A Blue Beetle movie, another HBO Max exclusive.
Joker Blue Beetle's been cast. Blue Beetle and Batgirl have both been cast, so they're moving forward. That's
happening. Joker 2, Electric Chocoloo. JJ and Michael B. Jordan Superman. That's fun, if that really happens. I hope it does. A Constantine HBO Max series, a Static Shock HBO Max series, a Green Lantern Corps series, the first Berlanti project for HBO Max, Gotham PD series, that's the Matt Reeves spinoff, and a whole bunch of other crap. But those are the main things. Do any of those pop out at you as either things you're super excited for or things you think will fall apart and not actually come together?
I will say I'm just kind of curious about the Green Lantern one, because cool concept, space cops, and let's see how it goes this time. And also, I am just curious about Berlanti, because again, they are going in these different tendrils. We have all these different creative forces, and we've got Matt Reeves, we've got Abrams, who's doing a bunch of stuff. But then you have Berlanti, who made this amazing army of shows on CW that were so successful for so many years, and so many of them are still going. And now he's going to be doing one for HBO Max. So I'm just curious, how different or the same will it feel from the CW stuff he's done, and what will it take place in a firm universe? Will it be one of those Arrowverse shows, or will it be its own complete thing too, or will it connect to the movies? We don't know. So that one I'm just curious about, because Berlanti has been extremely integral to this different side of DC we haven't even been talking about with all the CW shows, but now he's kind of coming into the HBO Max part of it too. So, and Space Cops again. I'm curious.
And there's been no casting or really like
there
news
was
on that front.
There was, and I'm forgetting who it was. The Guy Gordon, the a-hole Green Lantern, was cast, and I'm forgetting who played it. Who's cast as him though.
All right. Kim, any of those on your most anticipated list, or so like we'll see?
Yeah, like Eric, the Green Lantern Corps is the intriguing one. I can't see it not being in Greg Berlanti's tone because it's so strong, his voice. But that's interesting to me. I'm all over that. And of course, the Superman, J.J. Abrams, Michael B. Jordan. Definitely excited to see what that turns out to be. I'm not sure I'm interested too much in the Gotham PD series. Actually, I loved Gotham as a series hugely, and nothing is gonna come anywhere close to that for me.
It's weird for them to go back to that so quickly, right?
It is weird. It is. We'll see.
By the way, I'm a terrible comic book fan because Guy Gardner, not Guy Gordon, but the spectacularly named Finn.
He's got
Whitrock.
The ball cut and he's a jerk.
Yeah. Finn Whitrock, the amazingly named, is playing Guy Gardner in that show.
Okay, gotcha. And then Ryan just wrote a correction. JJ's Superman project is different from Michael B. Jordan's Superman project.
Right.
So whatever. We'll see where in the multiverse that ends up spitting out.
I agree with you, Kim, though, that I'm excited. Like, I love Matt Reeves, but I'm like, it is weird to do another Gotham PD show so soon.
Yeah.
I don't
So Zeno told me that, but just so to correct the correction, JJ is involved in producing the Michael B. Jordan one as well. He's just not directing. Like, that's what came out, is that he's not going to be leading the project, but it's like it's still all entangled. So there's Superman stuff coming, but not apparently a Man of Steel based Superman stuff in general.
Well, I'm most excited for Joker 2. I think it's no surprise here. I can't wait to see whether your thoughts are on how that Joker origin story played out. Like, he's now the Joker in this like grimy late 70s, early 80s version of Gotham that they created, and he's got like a clown army. I want to see what happens after that with Joaquin Phoenix leading the clown army in seedy Scorsese-influenced Gotham. Like, come on. That I think even if you didn't like the first one, like, they've got the psychological development out of the way, and now he can like learn to actually do crimes, like cool crime stuff, instead of just kind of get his ass kicked and trip over stuff, get beat up by children.
We have that sequel already in The Purge.
Yeah, I love The Purges. Oh, The Purges are like one of my favorite franchises. So yes.
Also, he is the Joker, and his arch nemesis is 10.
I think that's a fair fight between.
The 10-year-old Bruce will have to put on that bot costume very early, but
totally. You could age up Joaquin Phoenix like very easily if you needed to do a time jump, and it's like 10 years later, and he's got his crime empire. I think that would be awesome. But I know I'm alone on Joker Island here.
It's okay.
It's a lonely island, but we do have some fun stuff coming up. We're gonna talk about some other news, and I will get to that aforementioned animal fight article that I mentioned up top. But please subscribe and like at this point if you're watching this far, and ring that bell so you never miss another thing. We got a Fandom 5 coming up tomorrow, I believe, for Rick and Morty. That's 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So Friday. Yeah, today's Wednesday. Yeah. So Friday, you will appear at Friday on Fandom 5 and answer questions about Rick and Morty for cash, real cash, and I believe a gift card from a certain eatery. What was that? Where was that, Eric?
She's got red hair.
Wendy. Yes. So win or lose, you will get some Wendy's if you participate in the game. So you can't pass that up. Come on, it's free Wendy's. Moving on into other things. Let's see. Do you want to talk about the Olympics? Do you want to talk about What If? Or do you want to talk about a survey that said what animals do British people think they could beat in a fight?
Survey.
All right, cool, good.
Survey.
I'm glad we agree. Because look, I'll give my like one sentence reactions to that. The Olympics, very difficult to watch and annoying. And half of that's the time zone, but the other substantial half was how crappy Peacock and NBC Sports and all those apps were. What a mess. They'll get it right in 4 years, I'm sure. For What If might lead to live action spin-offs. Cool, I don't know. Can I see the animated one first? You guys can feel free to give your own one sentence responses to those while I bring up the survey.
Oh, I'm just going to say I want to see Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher in his own spin-off and have it be like Gogglebox. Do you have Gogglebox there? So he's just commenting on this group of people. I think you have a version, families watching TV and us watching them watching.
Oh, like Mystery Science 3000?
I guess so.
Okay, yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah, I feel like, the spin-off thing is kind of a no-brainer. It has a possibility, but I also think, I said this in my review of What If, but it's like, they're going to have at least one of these versions show up in either Doctor Strange 2 or some other multiverse movie. You know, it's like, if you're doing multiverse, then why wouldn't you, like, you know, have Haley Atwell in that costume for a scene or something like that? So I'm sure, why not? I'm for it.
Okay, so moving on to the most important topic of the day, YouGov UK, they issued a second poll after their first poll of Americans of what animals they think they could take in a fight to the death in unarmed combat, I assume in a neutral medium. And then they followed that up by asking people from the UK, I don't know, Britons, does Britons work? Sometimes I get confused what word to use. Can I call you Britons?
You can call us that. That is inoffensive and correct.
Okay,
so.
great. Perfect. So Americans across the board, as you'd imagine, our stupid optimism, are more confident that we could beat any animal. We're always more confident than the Britons that we could take them in a fight. But I wanted to do just like a snap poll here between Kim and Eric. I will name an animal, and you tell me whether you think you could beat it in a fight. Are you ready? Okay. A rat.
Yes.
Okay, there's a rat in the house. Could you kill it? It's you or the rat, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, if it's me or the rat, I'm sorry. Don't tell Ratcatcher 2. It's going to be me.
You can't use a broom. It's unarmed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unarmed. Yeah, just your fists. I'm going to skip a cat. That's messed up that they even put that on the survey. However, 69% of Americans and 66% of Britons said that they could defeat a cat if it came down to it. But I know you're both cat lovers, and I won't make you answer that. How about a goose?
I mean, it depends on the situation. If the cat
okay.
really,
Well, by all means, kill the cat.
If it's hell bent on really, tearing out my jugular or nibbling it out or something, then I'm going to fight back, Spencer.
Yeah, it's an evil cat, and by that I mean a cat. So yeah, it's one or the other. So here's one that I think is more challenging and had the widest discrepancy between American and British responses: a goose.
Well, here's the thing, because I see why Britons would hesitate to say they could beat a goose because they have an aerial advantage and they're all flappy and they're beaky. And I've seen The Omen, and even though it's not a goose, it's crows, and they were vicious. So yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Eric, it's you or the goose.
I mean, I'm trying to be realistic here because if this actually happened, I'd probably be like, "Oh my God, it's flapping its wings!" But I suppose if I had to, I could beat it. But there'd be some yelling and screaming on my part, I think.
Oh my God, it's flapping its wings. I don't think you should have to respond to a medium-sized dog because
no.
Yeah, that's it's cruel to put the dogs in there, don't you think? I think that's not allowed.
You could easily use some belly tickling to disarm it.
Oh, that's so cruel.
They are man's best friend, after all.
Okay, fine. Moving on to now an eagle. I think is an interesting one. Do you think you could take an eagle?
I mean, my response is the same as the goose response, really, with the aerial advantage. It can dive bomb me and pluck out my eyes, and they're meat eaters. So I would say, no, I would not be able to beat an eagle.
Yeah. Eric, do you think as an American, your increased familiarity with bald eagles would make you more?
No, I gotta be honest here because it's like, the goose was already, I said there'd be some intensity with the goose, but I think
Yeah.
ultimately it could win. But the eagle, yeah, it's flying in and out. It's got the talons. The eagle
I think I
win.
could beat a goose for the record. Just I know they're scary and they honk and they flap, but they're 90% neck. Like, come on, that's just it might as well be a flashing weak spot. Okay, now moving on to one that I think I have the most controversial response to is kangaroo, which I don't think I could beat every kangaroo in a fight. Like, because I've seen pictures of buff kangaroos and that's terrifying. But like a moderately like doesn't work out every day, but like is a normal kangaroo, I think I could take it. And yet the responses are only 14% of Americans and 5% of Britons think that they could beat a kangaroo in a fight. What say you?
I think I could beat a kangaroo, definitely. They've got quite short arms, and if we were boxing, I would win.
But they use the leg. They balance on the tail and they kick, so you got to get behind them. You have to get position on them like you're in the UFC. That's how I think it'll play out.
Kicking, nothing below the belt. I'm not taking a kick.
Queensbury rules.
Yeah. I gotta go. I guess I'll say, sort of like you, Spencer. I don't know. I'll say there's like a 50-50 chance, depending. I need to see this kangaroo. There's a lot of kangaroo factors here I need to know, but there's a possibility I can beat it.
Yeah. Now, I'd just like to shout out, the impressive delusion of Americans who almost 10% of them said that they could beat a crocodile, a gorilla, a lion, an elephant, or a grizzly bear. To the much more reasonable British response of 2%, and no, none of you can beat any of those animals in any way, shape, or form.
No,
not gonna happen. So I hope that's been informative and entertaining for everyone. I just, sometimes you see something interesting, and you have a Briton on the show with you, so you have to go do the research, get the real stats. But moving on from that, let's do some fan comments and questions before we leave. Eric Tatorapato asks, what would you have titled the Suicide Squad? That's a good one. It's the same characters, but you got to differentiate it.
I thought
Harley
about this.
Quinn and the Suicide Squad.
Right. I thought about this the other day because it is a good question, and I understood, James Gunn was talking about how there's something they didn't want to do. They didn't want to do kind of like a Suicide Squad : mission, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, is there something you could have done that's fun, like Suicide Squad party ! I don't know, like something you do need Suicide Squad in there, I think. But yeah, like something. The Suicide Squad goes on vacation. The Suicide Squad fights a giant starfish. I don't know. Something that kind of embraces the lunacy, maybe, with it.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad Hawaiian style.
There you go. Havana Nights.
Thinking about the conversation we've just had, I'm thinking maybe the wild geese could have been a good alternative.
The wild geese. Goose off. Yeah, I think if they were just explicit and said, Ryan says, name it Snyder Cut Reaction Review 2021. Yes, that would have been great SEO on that one. But yeah, do Suicide Squad. It's good this time. Sorry. Volume 1 or something like that. I don't know. You need something in there. You gotta differentiate it. Okay. Good questions here. Well, let's see. Reynard City Update Channel. What spices do you have in your spice rack? That's it. I have moving on. That's like I have 24 spices. We're not going to name them all. That's its own video. Little Buddha asks, would you rather a good film stand alone or have a follow-up to get more of what you liked? Just in a neutral film that you enjoyed. It's not necessarily a comic book movie, but it could be. Has a satisfying ending, no huge dangling open questions. Are you like, yes, when they announce the sequel? Or are you like, no, please don't?
Yeah, I think in that very specific set of circumstances, it's going to be a no from me. I don't want to see a sequel, really. If it's not automatically visible what they could explore, then yeah, leave it alone.
It's hard, right? Because it's like I love when there's sequels to movies I love and they're good, but that's not you'd never know. I'd rather have the Dread with Carl Urban that I love and think, oh, it's too bad we didn't get a follow-up, than have movies that had mediocre follow-ups. So all things, I'll take the one great movie if just to keep it pristine, even though a great sequel is a great sequel.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I gotta say my first reaction is usually if the movie didn't end in any open-ended fashion. That they're going back to the well for a sequel. But at the same time, when a sequel's bad, it doesn't ruin my enjoyment of the first one at all. There's so many bad remakes and sequels that they're so easy to not watch or not think about. I suggest you do that instead of having it be like, you ruined my childhood. It's fine. Your childhood is what it was. Can't change it. And yeah, the first, we'll always have Dumb and Dumber 1, and we'll never have to think about Dumb and Dumber 2 again. That's my personal policy. Final question. This is another bit of news that I feel like is big for a certain fandom. If you consider yourself a big Sonic head, Idris Elba confirmed that he is voicing Knuckles in Sonic 2. Now, the Jamie Garcia question is, who could voice Shadow the Hedgehog? I'm not so super familiar with Shadow the Hedgehog, so I might just take a random guess. But what's your response to adding Idris Elba to Ben Schwartz and Jim Carrey I assume, in Sonic the Hedgehog 2? Are you psyched for more Sonic, speaking of sequels? Huh?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't mind. Honestly, when it comes to voice talent, I don't mind who does the voices. I'm happy for unknowns to do the voices. So Idris is great, but I think, someone I didn't know could do just as good a job. And let's have an unknown doing Shadow, maybe, or a lesser known, someone from a wider pool than the always, the people that are always cast.
Yes, Sonic's a weird one for me because I've never played a Sonic game. Obviously, I'm very aware of the character, but I don't know the lore. I enjoyed the Sonic movie on those terms of just like, it's a goofy movie, it's fun, it passed the time. But the fact that people were so excited by Idris Elba as Knuckles, I'm like, hey, Idris Elba is great. And I know this is a weird melding of worlds, but yeah, it doesn't have any meaning to me. So Shadow, who I also don't know at all, Ben Kingsley. The perfect Shadow, clearly.
Always pick Ben Kingsley when in doubt. That's a good point. Yeah, I'm just looking at the Sonic wiki. That the fandom one is that Shadow is sharp-witted, always on edge, and has a strong sense of purpose. So I go with like a Gary Busey. I'm going to cast Gary Busey as Shadow the Hedgehog. And I think that they won't even have to write his lines. He could just go up there and speak about his own experience as a hedgehog, and they can just use that. So yeah, save a little money there.
Thinking Russell Brand sprung to mind. He hasn't done anything for a while.
Yeah. Bring back what if they rotate?
They rotate it through the movie. It's all three of these guys.
It's me, Sonic. I'm in Shadow. Whatever.
Is he nailing the accent? Yeah.
that is spot on.
It's as if Russell Brand is with us.
All right, well, we'll leave you with that. I promise, Kim, I'll do the whole show as Russell Brand next Wednesday when we see you. Do come back for the Fandom 5. Answer those Rick and Morty questions. Win that cash. Get that Wendy's. And we'll see you again on Monday. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.